Hi, Chelsea.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm surviving. How are you?
I know. I can only imagine. I will say right out of the gate, I don't care what anyone tells me. I see what you're talking about with the Megan Fox the comparisons. I would be that person to say, "Hey, I see it. You didn't say
hmm
you were a spitting image,
Right.
but I
Yeah.
get it."
hmm I appreciate that. It's when you like think of a comment you say and you don't really think much of it after. That's
Yeah.
how this has been. And my whole world has been flipped
Oh
upside down.
my God. Were you expecting that kind of response? And what has the response been?
It's kind of a mixture of both, actually. Do you remember that meme back in the day, like the gold dress and like, could you see black?
Yes.
That is like what it feels like right now. It's intense. It's either people are agreeing, people are not agreeing. I did not expect it to be this crazy. Of course, it was just a little silly comment that I said and I forgot about it. So it is wild.
And now you're fighting for your life in the comments.
Fighting for my life.
I love though that you're playing into it. You're having fun with it on TikTok. I've heard Adele, Natalie Nut, like people are now just throwing names out there.
Yeah.
So if the next time someone asks you, have you ever been told you look like someone, you have a list to go down.
I'm never saying that ever again in my entire life. I don't care if anyone says anything. That is never coming out of my mouth ever again.
All right, last thing I'll say on that, has Megan Fox reached out?
No, I'm waiting. I hope she does. I reached out to her apologizing. So I'm so sorry.
I can only imagine that it's been a whirlwind. I mean, you're watching it back now. First
Mhm.
reactions, what are you thinking so far about how everything was put together?
It sucks to see. It sucks to be very open and yourself and then kind of get totally torn down by it for being yourself. So it's kind of hard to watch and of course watch the hard moments that Jimmy and I had. So it's just kind of maneuvering it. It's a new world for me. I signed up for it. I knew it was going to come, but just kind of figuring it out along the way with and watching it with all of you is nuts. So
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, when you guys were in the pods and you gave Trevor the bracelet and he was like, I've been tapping it. I legit was like bawling. So maybe I was team Trevor, but
yeah.
what was it that made you go for Jimmy over Trevor?
So they were just so different. They were very, very different in their own ways. They were both absolutely wonderful. They would fit into my life so, so well. There was just something I
Mhm.
couldn't see past with Trevor. I was there for the whole point of me going there was to find a husband, and I just couldn't get past certain things with Trevor. And there was so many moments that were not aired where Jimmy and I just had a wonderful connection. And I just wish I was shown more.
So it wasn't because you were trying to compete with Jessica and the guy who has more than one girl interested in him is seen as more attractive. It wasn't that.
No, not at all. And that's so silly that people are saying that because I did not know Jess was seeing him until proposal day, until he told me. I just read Jess's letter. I had no idea because Jess and I both had our really hard conversations about marriage and our and her child the same day. And we both thought, we said, see you later, dude. We never talked about it. There was one comment I made very early on, and it was the day Trevor told me he loved me. And I said, Trevor was asking about Jimmy, and that was the last comment I ever made. I never said anything about Jimmy in the lounge because I knew other girls were dating him, and I was also dating other men.
Mhm.
I dated other men up to the whole point of the show was to date and really explore other relationships. So that was not it at all. I had no idea. The only reason I knew was because Jimmy told me the last day.
Um, I'm glad you clarified that. And then you guys go to the DR. There was a moment where you guys were excited about seeing the other couples and like the guys were going to see the girls for the first time, the women were going to see the men for the first time. Um, I heard that you made the comment about AD being stacked. Were you surprised about were you surprised about that he said it or that he was flirting with her throughout the night or in that moment we saw?
So when Jimmy told me AD was stacked, I mentioned to him he asked me about the other couples and I said they're all stunning, beautiful, beautiful women, whatever when we were having a conversation. him telling me AD, I would never say that. Him telling me AD was stacked out of nowhere just caught me completely off guard. And,
Mm.
we had a conversation before that in one of his interviews. He expressed that he likes smaller women. So, of course, body image is on my mind. I'm feeling a certain type of way because these are comments he made, and him coming out of left field talking about another woman's body was just very, I didn't know how to react to that.
Okay. Were you, when you guys get back into the real world, right? You're out of the paradise, the vacation's over, you're back into the real world. Were you concerned that things were going to fizzle? Were you trying to keep it going, I guess? Or what was it like? What did you guys feel?
So when we were in the DR, everything was amazing. We had that one hiccup. We just had such a great connection. It was so amazing. We were so physical together. It was just everything was combining and it was perfect. Then when we got to Charlotte, we got our phones back and things really started to shift.
Because I was going to say, like, as the viewer, and we're only getting a snapshot, right? So 3 weeks is condensed into 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all these couples that they're showing as well. And so I will say, when we're watching, we feel like, well, he is giving you attention. Are you asking for too much attention? Do you need to be constantly validated?
Mm-hmm.
But there is that other side to it. And that's what I wanted to ask you, where were you guys starting to drift apart? Were you feeling some, I guess, uncertainty about where the relationship was headed? Because it is a fast process.
Yeah, totally. I think that he was telling me everything he wanted me to hear to make me feel better, but his actions were speaking completely different. So what you guys don't see is that we only film in the afternoon. So we have the whole day of where I'm reading your body language. I'm seeing how you're talking to me. I'm still, that was also day 2 of living together. So I'm trying to like show you in a short amount of time the kind of woman I could be, the kind of wife I could be to you.
Mhm.
And in response to me doing these nice things for you, doing your laundry, making you lunch, making you dinner, going grocery shopping for us, and that response was I was clingy. So that's why my reaction was so intense, is because I didn't expect that, because I'm over here like fighting for my life and trying to show you like in a very short amount of time the kind of wife I could be to you.
Got it. Yeah. Because at one point I was like, the man just bit his lip. Like, maybe he just wants some space.
Yeah.
But yes, there is a lot of context. And I'm glad
Mm-hmm.
you're providing it right now.
Yeah.
Was there a moment where you were contemplating if you made the right decision, that maybe you should have went with Trevor?
Yeah, of course. I think that the experiment kind of, challenges you in that aspect. I was so set on Jimmy that there were certain times in our relationship that is not shown. And I don't know what's to be shown in the future, but there were definitely times where I thought Trevor wouldn't have done this, or Trevor wouldn't have acted
Mm.
like this, of course. And I'm sure he thought the same thing.
Um, were you nervous about him seeing Jess? Or because I feel like that was played up a lot too, of this moment where, what does she say? You're gonna choke when you see me.
Mhm.
Were you nervous of them seeing each other?
I wasn't, because I really trusted Jess, and I really, I also really trusted Jimmy. I just didn't think anything of it really, but of course the experiment is so interesting and so strange that of course that's a thought in your head, like, okay, maybe they'll realize that they were a better fit. I don't, that's going to be normal in this situation. That's going to be a normal thought. And Jimmy had it too. Jimmy was worried about Trevor because I expressed that Trevor was my normal type. So of
Mhm.
course Jimmy was thinking the same thing.
I was just gonna say, yeah, because we haven't seen you two meet yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to spoil it, but I am interested in if you could just take me back to that moment where you're about to see him.
Mm-hmm.
What was going through your mind?
I was very nervous. I was very anxious. We had this amazing connection in the pod, and I, loved him as a person. He's so great. He's literally exactly how he is on TV. So it was just, I was anxious. I was nervous. I was scared, but, I made my choice and I was happy with my choice. It was just going through the trenches at the time.
What do you want the viewers to know? Again, it's so much time condensed into a few episodes. What is it that we're not seeing that you want us to know?
There is so much that's not being shown, and it really, I felt the way I felt in the scenes that have just been dropped for a reason. There's a lot that is not captured. And I think that understanding that my feelings are valid, my feelings were true, I wouldn't have just brought that up and tried to make Jimmy feel worse. He was saying exactly what I wanted to hear, but his actions were speaking completely opposite. So my feelings were valid. I was trying to really, really get into his heart and his mind and make sure he was going to make the right decision. I mean, we're both in this together and it's marriage. It's not just being roommates, you know? So really challenging him and asking him the right questions was just my, you know, on the forefront of my mind. But also, I only have a short time to figure out if this is the person for me. And I don't think there's anything wrong for me questioning how he was feeling.
And girl, there was that explosive moment where you were like, you were knocking boots with her. Who was that? What was that about?
You're gonna have to find out, girlfriend.
The drama.
The drama is there.
You were upset at that moment, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Well,
All right.